Hey, what's up, guys? GR here, Dungeon Strength Conditioning in the dungeon office, and about to drop some knowledge on you guys. So, long story short, I owe you guys a video on problems with youth sports training and conditioning and sort of youth sports organization um, in the U.S. If that makes any sense. So, I'll put the links above this video, but if you've seen part one and two, you know that there's some issues with youth sports and sort of the training or lack thereof that goes on with them. So haven't had a lot of time to write stuff down, and so I owe you guys part three, and I was just going to go ahead and do a video for you guys. Thought it would be a little easier to pick up as well, because some of this stuff is a little different, material is a little different, and might be new to you. So, part three, getting right into it. One of the biggest problems with youth sports that basically feeds into some of these other problems that we've talked about in regards to training and stuff like that is early specialization. So, what is early specialization? Early specialization is basically if you think of a kid that is 8 years old and he wants to play in the MLB and he's playing baseball in little league, into club teams, blah 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 blah, playing nothing but baseball until he's out of high school and maybe going into college and hopefully following his dream to play baseball, but probably won't get there because of what we're going to talk about. Um, what happens is that you get these kids, and from the time they're 8 to the time they're 16, 17, 18, do nothing but play baseball all year. And the same goes with other sports. Other sports are just as guilty. Um, you know, you'll see TV spots of kids whose parents have them playing football year round. So if they're not in the fall and they're not in season with their local youth teams, then maybe they're in club teams. Maybe they have a sports specific coach um, that's taking them out to a field and doing nothing but drills all year. Saw a TV spot a couple of years ago where a family was literally paying this guy, this so-called coach, and that's a very generous term, to basically beat up on their kid every day. Kid was like 8 years old, going out in pads and having this dude that probably played ball somewhere in college, just beat up on him. Oh, it's going to make him tough for football. Well, you're missing a boat, and we're going to talk about why. So, early specialization is bad for a lot of reasons. Why is this the case? You would think, or some parents think, that okay, I know my kid wants to play in the NFL, MLB, wants to be an Olympian, track and field, whatever. That doing that sport year round continuously would prepare them better. And the fact of the matter is, that's not the case. Um, so, one of the things that get my teacher hat on. One of the things that causes the issues later on that sort of causes you to not have the success that you would have otherwise if you sort of specialize early is that your time period from let's say up to 14 years old is, can you even see that, is your foundation of your athletic movement. I'm going to make that a little bigger. So we'll say up to 14 years, we're building our this camera. We're building our foundation there. Does that make sense? Okay. So why is this the case? Basically, when you're young, when you're in this period of, let's say, 3 years old, um, 3 to 14 years old, your body, your brain, your neuromuscular system is basically primed to adapt to whatever you expose it to. Um, and it is primed to learn and develop and ingrain highly coordinated movements. So if all you're doing is baseball, let's say this is baseball skills. You're not going to be able to read that, but this little area is baseball skills. Then you're missing out on all of this that might be general athletic movement, sprint training, tumbling, body control, um, just different motor patterns, heavy med ball throws, explosions, gymnastic movements, all these things that sort of play into your athleticism later on. Um, the thing is, during this stage, your body is more primed and more able to adapt to complex movement than it is at any other time of your life. So think about when you learn how to ride a bike. Talk about, once you learn how to ride a bike, you never forget. It's just like riding a bike. Well, the thing is, other athletic movements are also just like riding a bike to a certain extent. So if you do gymnastics when you're a kid and you learn how to do what I don't even know. Let's say a cartwheel or back handspring or whatever thing that you learn how to do, it's going to be a whole heck of a lot easier to get back to learning that later on in life than it would be if you just took the baseball path, because that's about as big of a peak that you're going to be able to build with baseball, if that makes sense. Now, let's go in the other direction, and let's say that kiddo number 2 didn't just play one sport. Let's say he played all kinds of different sports. He did football, he did baseball, he did some football. He had a smart strength coach that trained him with explosive movements and sprints and med ball throws and different body control. Let's say he played lots of different games with neighborhood kids, just made up stuff, ran around, do different things, um, and then other general activities, and maybe even stuff like gymnastics. So he got a full spectrum of movement coordinated. Okay, so he has developed his body in so many different motor patterns and ways that he's going to be more able to, let's say down the road in high school, to pick up something like, let's say basketball or Olympic weightlifting, um, stuff that takes a little more coordinated movement, and that athletes that, let's say, a full time baseball player that only built this much of his little pyramid isn't going to be able to pick up as easy. It's not the perfect analogy, but basically, long story short, when you're young and you specialize, you limit your peak athletic performance. You're not going to peak. You're not going to know. I mean, I always thought I was going to go to the NFL. That's what I wanted to do. That was my goal. Um, and I mean, the thing is, you don't really know as a kid um, what sport you're going to be more physically inclined to succeed at. So if you're 5'4" and you think you want to go to the NBA, well, things probably aren't lining up for you as well as maybe if you wanted to get into Olympic weightlifting, which maybe you have a long torso, short femur, and you're just primed and ready to succeed at that, and that is your gift. That's what you're inclined to be the best at, and you can go be a gold medal Olympian if you try to develop that, if you choose to get into that later on in life. But the thing is, you won't really know that until you're fully physically developed past the point of childhood, where you probably have already been specializing sort of wrongly. Um, Another issue, and it's primarily psychological with early specialization, is just burnout. If you get a kid that's just playing baseball year round, um, you know, a few kids will make it through. A few kids will stick with it and they'll enjoy it and they'll stick to their love, and that's what it's going to be. But other kids are going to get so burnt out that the sport, you're going to kill all the fun for them. I mean, I know with me, I had such a short attention span growing up that it was like, oh, football season, I'm going to be in the NFL, I'm working hard in football, I'm running around outside, throwing the ball in myself, begging dad and brother and whoever else to go outside and play football and work with me on that. And then we'd have like a little youth basketball season, and it was like, oh, okay, I can get good at basketball. And then it was baseball, so, oh, let's get good at baseball. Um, and then by the time football rolled around again, it was like, oh, football, I need to do it. Let's go play football. And it kept things fresh psychologically, mentally, and it kept me motivated, I guess. And I think that's something that maybe a lot of kids that are a little less driven. I mean, I was always obsessed with sport. I needed it. I was if I wasn't working on something outside on a given night, I was probably sick. Um, so taking somebody that was as driven as I was, or as driven as I am, um, and having the sort of risk of burnout and getting bored, I can't imagine what somebody that isn't as sort of disciplined and driven and stuff like that, how they would sort of end up at the end of 4 years from 8 to 12 years old of doing nothing but baseball. Um, it also, another problem with all that specialization and mental burnout is the propensity for physical burnout and physical injuries. This is particularly the case in things like, let's say, distance running, where all you're doing is running mile after mile after mile. As a kid, your joint's going to be trashed. It's the way it is. If you're a baseball player, you shouldn't be 12 years old and having a frickin' case of tennis elbow. I mean, your shoulders, your elbows shouldn't be beat up as a kid. I'm sorry. That's not the way it should be. Um, and so if you start fighting these injuries early on, imagine what the heck you're going to be going through when you get into your career, or your older years. So anyway, early specialization sucks. Don't do it. Let your kids, number one, let your kids play. Let your kids have fun. Let them do different things. Let them go make up their own games in the neighborhood, stuff like that. And number two, get them to develop different skills. Make up games for your kids if you want them to succeed, and sort of get them to learn different movements and things of that nature. But other than that, don't specialize your kids. Don't overrun them in distance training, and have fun. Let stuff turn into a job in college and in the pros if it gets that far. Sport and training should be something they enjoy, something they do because they love, and give them a chance to have that love for it, so that it's something they want to do later on instead of something that they dread and hate and all that bad stuff. So until next time, build a nice big pyramid, and don't eat according to the food pyramid, unless this part is meat and this little part is other stuff. Seriously though. Anyway, GR, the dungeon office, youth sports training problems,